Yeah, what's going on, folks? What's going on? What's going on? I'm just taking the time to quickly remember September 11th, 2001. I'm somebody who basically, I wasn't as close as everybody else to it, but I saw it from across the river, and it was a crazy time, because it's like something out of a movie. You never expected it to go down the way it did. Especially there's a lot of folks out there that were young, too young to experience it and know what it was about and what was going on. But it was a day that everything changed. It was a day that was very horrific. It was a day that rocked, New York and the country at large. Yeah, definitely deep. Condolences to all on that horrific day. You know, I just do a video like this because you know what? I say folks are gone, they're not forgotten. You want to take time to remember, the people that lost loved ones, and to understand that, we as Americans, we as humanity lost, some great souls that day. And, we really don't forget. We try not to forget, those folks, who made the ultimate sacrifice, the emergency service workers, military personnel, regular citizens like me and you that just went out there and did their thing, at that time. It was just about humanity and coming together and bonding together, for a common cause to try to make sure we survive and find out what's going on. Because terrorism, it's an ugly stain on humanity. It's very, 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 vicious and atrocious. It was still hard to imagine that someone could do something so horrific especially on that scale. Not to say terrorism has never happened, but when it hits so close to home, it messes with you. It really does. It really messes with you. It really takes you to a place that you never thought you would have to go. And I like to say to the families out there that are affected or that were affected, like I said, we won't forget. We'll try to honor the memory of the lost loved ones and people that that you lost. Because we all lost that day. It wasn't just one or two families. It was just Americans. We all lost that day. But we tried to rebuild, and we have rebuilt. And we had the Freedom Tower. We went on as New Yorkers. Of course, New Yorkers are tough. We went on and as Americans. We try not to let fear and terrorism and all that win. So, particularly we move on. We just. I don't know. It's just crazy. It's crazy because some things in humanity are just a wild. And so I was speechless at the time when it happened. I remember going to my homeboy next door, who was living next door at the time. We were watching CNN, and as we're watching CNN, we're looking across the river, watching the building go down as we're watching it on CNN. And it was just still a surreal moment. I could only imagine what folks were going through that were actually in Manhattan at that time, that were actually around the buildings and stuff like that. And I'm not making this live stream just to focus on the event itself, even though it was a horrific event. What I'm trying to focus on is the fact that, we do remember, we do rebuild. You try not to let fear win. You try not to let terrorism win. Those people who hate life and who hate to see humanity as a whole come together. It is about reflections as far as, okay, you know what? We honor life. We honor the lives and the struggles that people went through just on a day-to-day basis. Because I remember September 10th. September 10th was probably one of the most beautiful days I've ever seen, because the funny thing about it was me and my homeboys were on the ferry, the Staten Island ferry, and we were, going around the city and stuff like that. And we were on the Brooklyn piers, and we took some of the most beautiful pictures of the Twin Towers that day. And, I obviously lost those pictures, but I remember looking at those pictures of September 10th, and I said, wow, this is something. Not to know that when you're taking these pictures, when you're going around like that in the city, to know that the next day, everything would change. So many things would be shifted. And it's a reminder when I look back on that. I say to anybody out there, appreciate life, man. You know, appreciate the days that you have. Appreciate your loved ones. Appreciate, you know, your coworkers. Appreciate people you come into contact with in the streets. I'm not saying because you never know when it'll go, but that's a reality of it all too. You know, so it just reminds you of how precious life is. Because I remember that day, you know, the day before, and then the day of was a surreal moment, and then the day after. So you had September 10th, 11th, and 12th. Those 3 days were very intense. All I remember is just trying to make sure that my loved ones was okay, and then feeling and having heartfelt sympathies for those that lost. You know, people were still, you know, with fresh wounds in their mind, trying to figure out what's what and what actually went down, and, you know, why. Some people still haven't been given answers, you know. But you try to cope with the pain. You try to get past the losses. You try to move on with your life, you know, if you can. And some people may never, but we still try to honor the memories of those lost. You know, we still just try to send out our thoughts and prayers to the families, you know, affected. We try not to let terrorism win. Like I said, you know, not to repeat myself, even though I am. You know, it was just a day where it put things into proper perspective. You know, it just lets you know what's most important in life. You know, family. You know, just freedom, hope, liberty. You know, all that stuff. You know, it makes you appreciate being able to live in a free country, being able to have freedom of speech, being able to have, you know, mobility to move around. You know, it is a lot. I'm almost at a loss for words with some of the things that that happened that day. You know, but I'm not gonna stay on here too long and whatnot. I'm just probably be on here for a few more minutes. Then I gotta go to work myself. And also too, working on 9/11 is always interesting and strange, because you have these beautiful ceremonies, you know, and the American flag draped, and, you know, the soldiers and the firefighters, the police, the NYPD and the FDNY, and all other emergency responders, you know, have beautiful ceremonies, and it's bittersweet. You know, it's beautiful, you know, for the patriotism that's shown, and, you know, the fact that they honor people's memories and whatnot, because there's going to be a whole bunch of ceremonies today in New York City, as well as on the weekend as well. You know, but I'll say this, with all the beautiful ceremonies and things that are going to happen in the next couple of days, I rather would have the people, you know, I would rather have the people alive, you know, that were in those buildings and whatnot. You know, like I said, some beautiful ceremonies, some great gestures, very patriotic, you know, very, very, you know, like heart-wrenching, you know. But, you know, like I said, you would rather have the people. Like I said, I wish the people were still here. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Makes you think, you know. And like I said, my condolences, my thoughts, my prayers, anybody that's going through any horrific events with the hurricane, you know, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Harvey, that's still going through that. Anybody that's faced any situations from terrorist attacks or earthquakes, you know, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. You know, like I said, we haven't forgot about you. As far as September 11th, we still remember. Time has passed. You know, people have moved on with their lives, but we try not to move on from the memory of you, and we try to keep you in our hearts, not just on September 11th, but, you know, on the subsequent days that, you know, pass, and the days that, you know, will come. Like I said, I'm just doing this just to reflect, because I seen it, you know, and I know there's a lot of folks, other New Yorkers that lived through it. A lot of people actually moved away from New York because of it. Some people are still trying to deal with it. Some people, I know people who don't watch TV, who don't want to be bothered with it. It's just too much to bear. It's too much to deal with. And that I understand too. Definitely I understand too. Because it was a traumatic situation. How do you deal with, a terrorist attack that basically changes the fabric of society? That changes the way that, people move about the country, move about the world. It affected everything from our transportation systems, to our security checks, to, how we purchase things, to how we surveilled, all kind of different things, But all that aside, we try to honor the memories of those lost on September 11th. And, like I said, we remember, we remember that day. We remember what happened. More importantly, we remember your lives. We remember the things that you've done, before September 11th, who you were. Yes, Granny Monster, we should never forget. Yeah, Victory Leo, it's hard for people to watch the news. Yep. But on that note, I'm about to get up out of here because, like I said, I don't want to start crying on this live stream myself. And it's a rough day, but I'll end it on these thoughts. We will never forget, for those of us that experienced it, for those of us, yes, Granny, it is important to watch the news. For those of us that was there, for those of us that were around, for those of us that need to know, for the children that need to know, we pass on these lessons to next generations. You're gone, but you're not forgotten. Yeah, nothing wrong with a good cry, but I'm not trying to give a good cry on this right now. Yeah. We will remember. We do remember.